Every year in the National Football League, there's at least one, but sometimes two or three teams that really exceed expectations and go from a team that not a lot of people are expecting a lot of heading into the year and become legitimate Super Bowl contenders. Last year, it was Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders going from the number 2 pick in the NFL draft to the number 2 team in the NFC playoffs, losing to the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC Championship game, beating both the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Detroit Lions in the NFL playoffs. And on today's edition of NFL Daily, I'm going to go over 3 teams that I could see surprising the world this year and becoming legitimate title contenders very surprisingly. So before we get into the contents today and go over my 3 teams that I think could shock the NFL world this year, give me a follow on X if you haven't already. You can find me at Jack_Sperry. I'm currently going over my top 32 NFL quarterbacks list heading into the year. Today I talked about Drake May of the New England Patriots as my number 16 quarterback, and I have entries on all of the 15 other quarterbacks that I have on my list right now. So if you guys want to see tomorrow's entry and the rest of my entries as we approach the NFL season on my quarterback rankings, you can follow me at Jack_Sperry. So the first team that I want to talk about today is the Arizona Cardinals. I can already see you rolling your eyes at me at home because, Kyler Murray and the Cardinals, they haven't been legitimate, even playoff contenders here for at least a few seasons since Cliff Kingsbury was the head coach there in Arizona. But at week 10 last year, I want to remind you guys that Arizona was 6-4, all right? They were legitimate playoff contenders at that point in the year, and they were coming off 5 wins in their last 6 games, and there was a lot of talk about the Arizona Cardinals potentially making the playoffs, and even some expectations of them making the playoffs were starting to form after a lot of people did not have high expectations for that team heading into the 2024 season. And not only that, but Kyler Murray was getting discussed in MVP conversations, all right? Like, he had individual performances where he completely carried that Arizona Cardinals team. They almost went into Buffalo and beat the Bills on the road in a shootout with Kyler Murray playing one of the best games any quarterback had played last year. He also had phenomenal performances against the Los Angeles Rams and the Miami Dolphins, and he was looking like he was getting back to being one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. However, in weeks 12 through 18, after that 6-4 start, they only went 2-5 the rest of the way, and they ended up missing the playoffs with a final record of 8-9. And what's worse is that Kyler Murray, who was such a big reason why they got to that 6-4 mark midway through the season, was a huge reason why they ended up missing the playoffs and ended up having that second half slump. And Kyler just became super conservative. He wasn't exiting the pocket, doing his normal playmaking magic that we see from him. He wasn't using his legs as much. He was taking a lot more sacks. He was checking the ball down a lot more. I believe his average depth of target was second to last year in front of only Tua Tagovailoa, who throws a ton of screen passes. So Kyler just became a shell of himself in the second half of the season last year. However, Kyler does have the talent to be a top 10 NFL quarterback. We have seen that before. He has been an MVP candidate in this league. He's got really good arm talent. He's got really good pocket presence. He's got phenomenal playmaking ability outside the pocket, and he is still a top 6 rusher at the position with really great change of direction and acceleration for a quarterback, and really good vision as well. Like, this guy can still be an impact player, and he proved that in the first half of last season. If we get first half Kyler Murray from last season all the way through the 2025 season, this team could absolutely make some noise this year in Jonathan Gannon's 3rd year as the head coach of the Redbirds. I also really like the top receiver duo that Kyler has to throw to this year. Last year was quite clear that he and Maserati, Marvin Harrison Jr. were still getting on the same page. Honestly, Harrison did not have the best rookie season out there, especially compared to guys like Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr., 2 rookies that really had phenomenal rookie campaigns. But then Trey McBride is also a legitimate receiving threat, one of the top 3 tight ends in the league, pretty much inarguably, in my opinion. So Marvin Harrison is also bulked up this offseason. He looks like an absolute monster out there. He's slightly below A.J. Brown in terms of how much he weighs heading into the year, and he has just been absolutely grinding this offseason alongside Kyler Murray here, where I think that these two have a chance to really have a breakout season together, and then you add Trey McBride to that equation, and you could have a really good receiving duo there in Arizona this season. And then people also forget about running back James Conner, who has been one of the best running backs in the National National Football League, mind you, with not the best offensive line play in Arizona over the last several seasons. Conner's not the most athletic guy in the world, but he can catch the football out of the backfield. He's a good pass protector as well. But then as a running back, his missed tackle rate is insane over the last 3 seasons, and he's overall probably a top 10 running back in the game. So I think that the element that James Conner brings to the table as well, alongside Kyler Murray's rushing ability, can be something that could be quite dangerous for the Cardinals offense. And then I think this defense has potential as well. I mean, Jonathan Gannon, I think it might be one of the more underrated defensive play callers in the National Football League. He plays a lot of quarters, a lot of cover 6, but he also, for kind of a Fangio-style defensive coordinator, he really gets creative with some of the blitz packages that he puts out there, which really makes him an intriguing defensive head coach heading into the year for me. And then also, I look at this defensive line, guys, and this defense and how much they were able to add to this group. I mean, Dalvin Tomlinson, Walter Nolen, Calais Campbell, you lost Darius Robinson and B.J. Ojulari to injury last year. You get a whole year of Baron Browning, who looked really good in this defense last year. You add Josh Sweat, who has played in this scheme before with Jonathan Gannon in Philly. And then also, you just get Will Johnson to fall to you in round 2, and he's looked phenomenal in camp. So I think that this defense showed promise last season, and now you're adding this much to your defensive line. I think that this group has a chance to really take a big step forward on defense, and if Kyler and the offense can figure it out as well, I think the Redbirds have a chance to make some noise here in 2025. So who's your pick? Let me know down there in the comments section which NFL team will shock the NFL world this year. Who's going to be this year's version of the Washington Commanders? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section for today's pinned question. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds, and when that happens, take advantage of that time. But let me know which NFL team you think is going to shock the world. Now let's get into the New England Patriots, who I think did a really good job moving off of Gerard Mayo, who just wasn't working out there in New England, and bringing in a true bona fide culture builder and new head coach, Mcbride. I really believe in his leadership. He was really able to, I think elevate that Tennessee Titans roster that he had for multiple seasons there in Tennessee. I love his defensive philosophy as well, and I think that he just knows how to run an NFL organization extremely well. Players really respect him, and he's somebody that can command the room as the leader of an NFL franchise. And then also, he just has one of the best young quarterbacks in the National Football League in Drake May. And we've seen quarterbacks have year 2 breakouts, right? We've seen Patrick Mahomes in his second year in the league break out and have an MVP season. We have seen Lamar Jackson in his second year break out and have an MVP season. Now, sometimes it takes guys 3 years, not 2 years, to fully break out, and we'll see how much of a step forward May makes this year. But if he takes that year 2 leap and becomes a bona fide superstar quarterback, like a lot of people, including myself, believe he has the potential to become, we could be looking at the Patriots as a team that absolutely could be in the playoff hunt and make some noise come January as well. I also think that the wide receiver room in New England is a lot better this season. Now, obviously, there's a lot of unproven talent here, but they have invested a lot at this position. Stephon Diggs, I still think, is a good player when he's on the field. DeMario Pop Douglas in the slot, really good slot receiver. Kayshon Boutte, as a rookie last year, was Drake May's #1 target down the stretch, looked pretty darn good. But I'm also a big fan of Kyle Williams out of Washington State. Really good route runner, really good after the catch. I think that he's going to have a really, I think that people are not talking about him at all, and I think he might be one of the best rookie wide receivers in the league this year. So I like what the Patriots have to work with. They also brought in Will Campbell to be the new left tackle. We'll see how he does with his shorter wingspan and arm length as an NFL tackle, but he has such great technique that I think Patriots fans feel pretty good about where they're at left tackle. But they also have a really fun running back duo there in New England this year, right? Ramondre Stevenson, pretty solid back, and then they add Travion Henderson, who looked phenomenal in the preseason debut last week against the Washington Commanders, returning the first play of the game, the kickoff, for a touchdown, and then had a couple more explosive runs after that as a running back. He is super, super explosive, and the ceiling really is the limit for a guy like Travion Henderson. But then you go over to the defense, and there's good players all over the place, all right? I would say Christian Gonzalez is probably their best player. He is a true lockdown #1 corner, in my opinion, but you've got good good players in the linebacking core. You got some nice players on the defensive line like Christian Barmore, especially if he can stay healthy. You added Harold Landry this year. Like, they just have solid players all over this place. And when you combine that with Mike Vrabel and his defensive philosophy, which was able to really elevate some of the defensive talent deficiencies that he had to deal with in Tennessee over the years, I think this Patriots defense will be fully back this year, and they'll be back to being at least a top 10 defense. So if Drake May and the offense can take a big step forward, and they certainly have the potential to do that, and then Mike Vrabel can get the most out of this defense, I think the New England Patriots could make some noise come playoff time. Then the final team that we'll talk about here is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, full disclosure, I am a Steelers fan, and I am our Steelers host, all right? So maybe take what I'm saying here with a grain of salt because I'm biased. But I think Pittsburgh's defense could be the best unit in the National Football League this year. They have been hovering around the top 5 defenses in the league over the last several seasons with the players that they had and the issues that they've had. They haven't had a good cornerback room in years. They've had linebacker depth issues in the past. They've always had a good pass rush, but on the back end, they haven't been quite as good. But this year, I don't think there's really any holes with the Steelers' defense, and that should be really scary for opposing NFL offenses that come in to play Pittsburgh. You look at the defensive line, TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, maybe the best edge rusher duo in the National Football League. Cam Hayward is coming off a first-team All-Pro season. Keanu Benton is a very talented nose tackle out of Wisconsin. Derek Harmon, their first-round pick, is a disruptive pass rusher there at the defensive end spot. And then Nick Herbig out of Wisconsin, just like TJ Watt and Keanu Benton, as a rotational edge, is probably the best rotational edge rusher in the National Football League. So opposing NFL offenses are not going to get a break against the Steelers' pass rush in these games. Then you look at the off-ball guys at linebacker, and you got Patrick Queen, a former All-Pro. Then you got Peyton Wilson, who's one of the up-and-coming potential stars at the position. He added 15 pounds of weight this year and still has the athleticism that he was known for coming out of NC State. Great in coverage. He's getting rave reviews for his run defense as well in Steelers training camp. That could be one of the best linebacking duos in the National Football League. And then you also have Cole Holcomb, who's a former starter that missed the 2024 season with a knee injury, who's had a really good camp as well. So the Steelers are loaded at linebacker as well. And then really the difference maker, I think, for the Steelers heading into this season is the secondary. Joey Porter Jr. Has had a little bit of an issue with grabbing and holdings and DPIs in the past. He's just been straight up locked down in camp this year. He looks like a legitimate shutdown number 1 corner at Steelers camp right now. Then you have Darius Slay, who's coming off a Super Bowl win and a really good season with the Eagles. And then really the difference maker, I think, this year, guys, is Jalen Ramsey playing the big nickel position in the Steelers defense. They're going to be putting him in the slot, at safety, on the outside at times, depending on the matchups. He's a really good blitzer. He might be the best run-defending corner in football currently. And, like, the way that the Steelers use that nickel corner, like in the versatility that player needs to play with, I couldn't think of a better player for this Steelers secondary than Jalen Ramsey. And then Juan Thornhill has been playing very well in Steelers camp as well. He's been flying down, hard hitting. He's very fast as well. And then you got Deshaun Elliott, who was the number 1 in the league last year among any player with at least 100 tackles in missed tackle rate. All right, so he's super reliable as a tackler, makes plays in the backfield. There's really no holes, in my opinion, on this Steelers defense. So if the Steelers offense with Aaron Rodgers and Caleb Johnson, their rookie running back, and their wide receiver room and all the tight ends that they have can be good, I think this team could absolutely be dangerous because I think this team's defense has the potential to be the best in the league. Guys, their young offensive line is really showing some promise early in camp as well. They went up against Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen, the first-team Jacksonville edge rusher duo, and Broderick Jones and Troy Fautano, the 2 first-round picks here in Pittsburgh over the last 3 seasons at tackle, didn't give up a single pressure with the first-team offensive line. So that young O-line looking pretty promising early. And then if their O-line can hit, I think the run game will take a step forward this year. And if you can combine a really good run game there in Pittsburgh with a really good to elite defense here in Pittsburgh, and then if Aaron Rodgers gives you something, he has a true bounce-back season, like the dominoes would be starting to fall into place here and the puzzle pieces would be starting to come together for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. And then I also think offensive coordinator Arthur Smith Smith has something kind of really creative up his sleeve this season because, you look at the NFL today, there's a lot of 11 personnel, 3 receiver packages, there's a lot of nickel, there's a lot of speed on the field. The Steelers are kind of going against the grain with that, and they're saying we are going to bully you, and we're going to put a lot of tight ends on the field, a lot of size, a lot of strength, and we're going to force you to get into your heavier base personnel packages and try to play football that way and try to make defenses uncomfortable playing in certain personnel packages that they don't really play in all that often. I think the Steelers will easily lead the NFL in 13 personnel. That is 3 tight ends because they've got Jonnu Smith, they've got Pat Freiermuth, and they got Darnell Washington. And speaking of Darnell Washington, guys, he's heading into his 3rd year in the league, and he's looking like an absolute beast in Steelers training camp. I think he's led the team in red zone touchdowns in training camp to this point. He had a touchdown in the preseason versus the Jaguars on that first drive against the Jaguars' first team defense. I mean, he is huge, and just look at the size of the football in his hands, guys. It looks like it just looks so super tiny. It just looks easy out there for Darnell Washington. So I think this could be a true breakout season for the 3rd-year tight end, and if you're combining that with Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith, that could easily be the best tight end room in the National Football League this year, forcing teams to go into their heavier, slower base personnel packages, which is going to open things up for DK Metcalf, a true speed demon of a wide receiver that also brings great size to the table. And he's going to be playing that quote-unquote A.J. Brown role in this Arthur Smith offense this year, where he's going to be catching the ball a lot on slants and on digs and getting him the ball out in space. And if you're out there in your slower base personnel packages and you're trying to catch up to DK Metcalf, all I got to say to that is good luck. So predict it for me down there in the comments section. Will this be Mike Tomlin's first losing season of his 18-year coaching career in the National Football League with the Pittsburgh Steelers? Give me a yes or no down there in the comments section. For me, I think if you're betting on Mike Tomlin to get a losing season, that's a losing bet right there. All right, that'll be it for today's show, guys. Thank you so much for making it to the end. Make sure you get down there in the comments section and let me know what you guys think about the Cardinals, Patriots, and Steelers heading into the 2025 NFL season. And also don't forget to let me know which team you think is going to shock the NFL world here in 2025.